Hi, Scorpio. This is your reading for the week of February 2nd, 2026, or when you see this and it resonates, and it may not resonate with everybody. So, as I was starting to work with you today, I began with my usual morning writing exercise, and it was Spirit, what would you like to tell Scorpio today? For example, I used your name. And what I got was this. I was reminded of a flow they gave me a few days ago. Actually, it was weeks ago now, but I was reminded to go back to that page. And it was when a child feels loved and know that they are loved just for being, then they tend to grow into adults with healthy emotions and are able to have comfortable and mutually cooperative, loving relationships with friends, with lovers, with family. And somebody who is able to do that then is more inclined to be able to understand how you would turn that inward and how you would experience self-love, and to be able to grow that if it hasn't evolved deeply, or if it just is ready to expand more, or to be understood in a slightly different way. And then, of course, it's much easier from there to go into understanding the nature of loving everyone, not just loving ourselves. But when we genuinely love ourselves from our high heart, we understand everybody deserves love. And the nature of love as an essential energy, as the essence of who we are. And so we become love. And of course, this is a part of what the whole process of growing and developing our consciousness is to be more completely in that state. But the other thing that I'm reminded of as I started to work was a concept that a psychologist named Terrence Real, R-E-A-L, speaks of. And he's a relational life therapist. And he talks about a template that he uses: the wounded child, the adaptive child, and then the wise adult. And what he talks about is that when there are wounds in the early childhood, so when somebody doesn't feel really loved, or when there's trauma for whatever reason, is that they will tend to take on characteristics and behaviors that protect them from having those wounds triggered. So if they're triggered by somebody telling them they're fat when they're a kid, they will tend to try to hide their bodies, for example, or maybe wear baggy clothes or something of that nature. If it's that they get told to shut up every time they speak, they will have a tendency probably then to be very moderated in their speech and or not speak up for themselves. But when we come in, anybody, any sign, when we come in with the sole purpose of service, of service of some kind. Our soul is telling us that we are all here to learn and grow, and we all serve each other in some way, and to really embody that attitude. If we come in with that as a soul calling, and we have got these layers over our lens of how we see the world and how we see ourselves, then that's when we can turn our adaptive child traits into those things that look really socially acceptable. We tend to become the caretakers. We tend to be the ones who are going to be codependents, things of that nature, because the nature of loving has been subtly warped, or our perception of loving and acts of love can become warped really through this kind of this slightly distorted lens. So what you're being told, Scorpio, is this. Notice, please, when you start feeling as though you are getting tight in your body, when you start feeling harsh or rigid, because that's when you can accidentally turn this taking care of quality, this service attitude, to an extent that is not good for you, that is actually harsh for you. So if it can feel really good. I have it myself. Every time I actually manage to vacuum, I did it. It can be that kind of feeling good because you've accomplished something. What we're working on now, my lovely, lovely Scorpios, is you getting back to the place where you heal that original childhood, so that you just get to love you. And then whatever other service you decide you want to perform now comes out of this elevated sense of loving. It no longer has a sense of giving rules or no sense of rigidity. There's no tone when you suggest things. So it can be kind of a way of looking at how any of that adaptive child behavior has kind of cloaked the way you experience the world with this faulty lens, which then can create your genuine desire for service, your genuine desire to be good and do good for people. It can become distorted in a way where the people that you are doing good for don't necessarily perceive it as good. They might perceive the tone. They might perceive any kind of attitude that went along with that wounded child adapting to an environment in order to be more safe in. So what you're being told here also is to look at worry in your life and look at how many times, no, I need to change that. It's not how many times. Look at the different faces of fear, because worry is just one of the faces of fear. And when we track back to whenever we get rigid or when we have rules about how we think somebody should be behaving, often it's because there's an underlying fear there. And so that quality of worrying about how things are going to play out, what somebody's going to do, what somebody's going to say, how they're going to behave, that now all goes back to that fear place. And that's where our ego lives. And that's where we're going to be more inclined to be motivated by that wounded child coming out as the adaptive child. And the thing is, a lot of times we don't get it because it is coming through in our conscious mind with a genuine will to help and a genuine will to be seen in a loving light, because that's the intention behind it. It's just the way of doing it is not always perceived as that, because if the energy of the wounded child is there and is still there, that's sometimes what people will pick up, whether you're smiling, whether your voice is lovely or not. There may be external factors like attitudes, snarkiness, whatever, but it might also just be that you're still really carrying the energy of that wounded child. And that's why that quality is coming out, because whatever created the need for that protection is still there. It's still a fear. And fear tends to invite attack. Fear, very often, in people with lower conscious awareness, will often invite, what's that phrase? Everybody, kicking the dog when it's down or something like that. It's a horrible concept, but it's that idea like, when you're already down there, it's a lot easier to get kicked. Well, it's that quality of that energy too that can sometimes come up. So what you're being told, my dears, is, now this is important too. It's not just important in terms of how people around you interact. It's understanding that it's also an energy that you're perpetuating for yourself, right? It's not just the fear energy. It's not the, the worrying, trying to figure out and analyze. It is also how you can apply that kind of energy to yourself as well. You think of the little kids who, have to buck up because they don't have a parent there. You see it all the time. He became the man of the family. She became the mother. She took care of this. But even if they don't do it physically with those acts, the energy of that can be there. So you're being asked to please pay attention and really check in when you are speaking about what your needs are, what you would like, what you don't want. Say what you feel, like really check in with your feeling, but not just what words you want to say, but what energy you want to project through that, okay? So checking in with what you feel and really taking the time to notice it. You're also being told when you go into worry, and I'm wondering if there might be for some of you worrisome stuff coming up. Oh, thank you. Yes, okay. So worrisome stuff coming up, and it could be in the world around you, like table and chair reality, but it could be as you're continuing to do your really incredible healing work that you might find yourself feeling a little bit overwhelmed as some of the old stuff comes up, because you're not easy on yourself when you find yourself lacking. It's not always easy for you to be gentle with yourself and to know what that feels like. And what they're telling me is to get in touch with the feeling of self-care. You can't necessarily go from being a loving adult to self-love. Can you go at least to self-neutral? Can you use that as your stepping stone and make a plan from there? But notice what you're actually feeling in your body when you make a statement about it and say, okay, if my body posture were exaggerated as a caricature right now, what would it look like? If my voice were being drawn into something, what would it look like? And just check in with that to see not just whether or not your words are conveying what you want them to convey, but how you're conveying it and what it is you're intending to convey. Because your energy, if you can get clear on that in your head, that's the energy that you're going to lead with. And it's important, especially when you're thinking about yourself. Check in with that must do, check in with that, and really allow yourself, if you can, to just soften around anything that is coming in and creating any kind of disturbance for you, and welcome it, because this is you, my word. When you guys, as you are doing this, yep, slow down. It's slow down. Do one thing at a time. And for those of you who are doing it, listen, trust that stuff's going to come up for you, for sure, because this is going to affect when these things come up. Even as they're coming up, what you might notice first as a way to bring them up is your reactions to people around you, your responses to people around you that are making you uncomfortable, that are making you feel protective, that are making you feel anything. Just stay in it, because it might be just wonderful too. And likewise, this affects how you hear things being said back to you, right? So again, Scorpio, I feel this is wonderful, because I feel like a lot of times people don't understand. There is a real concern level, a worry level, an anxiety level below what sometimes seems like a harshness that is really coming from a deeply, deeply delicate, lovely place. You just deserve to be swamped with nothing but kindness right now. Nothing but kindness, nothing but love, nothing but acceptance, because this is a deep work you are doing with yourself, Scorpio. And it is understood by Spirit that you are doing this work, and that you are doing this work with good intention. I've got so many shivers. You have got so much angelic, I hesitate to say that, but you have got so much divine love for you right now, that you've got what it needs, and your job is to move towards self-love as much as possible. And as you do that, notice how things are falling away. Gratitude is a huge thing for you right now. And that is the energy that you can lean into as you are going through this, because it will help soften any of the edges, and kind of, grease the slide into that beautiful, soft, loving, watery place where you get to be able to experience all sorts of different nuances to what love and loving means in the human realm, and certainly into the expanded consciousness and the spiritual realm of love in all the different ways you can experience it there. So way to go, Scorpio. You've got a team working with you. Good luck. Remember gratitude. That's going to be really good, and that's going to be very helpful for you, because it's a very high vibration, and it's always possible to find something to be grateful about. Again, use the embodied quality of that, the way Dr. Rick Hansen talks about that, allowing yourself to soak in the good and feel the good even if it's just the flavor of your coffee. Just experience that. What he suggests is 6 times a day, 12 seconds a time. 12 seconds, that's all. Okay, go for the low-hanging fruit, the things that are easy to feel good about, and use that as a way, because instead of waiting until it gets to be a situation, let's deal with the energy before it becomes a crisis point, okay? I leave you with that, Scorpio. This is a lot of love coming. A lot of love. Take care.